The world quietly changes. At first, it was continuous rain, clothes that couldn't be dried in the sun, then it was construction waste falling from the sky, and a species disappeared out of thin air. Faced with the beating of society, people are extremely optimistic, and the streets are filled with humans walking with smiles on their faces. Upon waking up, she suddenly fell into an unknown space. Ding-dong. Welcome to Extreme Park. Please get enough views and followers before the game ends. Game failure deducts points. Deduction of points for answering mistakes. Wishing you and your companions a pleasant journey. As an orphan girl with nothing, Tuan works diligently and focuses on picking up scraps in the dungeon. Self-defense weapons. Pick it up. Pots, bowls, ladles, and pots. Pick it up. Accompanying teammates. Still picking it up. Promoted all the way, only to find that the amusement park is not as simple as it appears. Tuan. Pick up enough supplies and I will be able to complete the task in the corner. P.S. Start with a paddle and rely entirely on picking up equipment. The male and female leads don't have time to misunderstand. SC. The protesters eventually became the ones in power. Keywords of the novel. I am picking up junk in survival games without pop-ups. I am picking up junk in survival games. Download the complete set of TXT. I am reading the latest chapter on picking up junk in survival games. Chapter 1. The hand-grasping cake boss flies up. You are listening at novel full.audio. This translator is experiencing an error, please try another translator. Chapter 2. Welcome to Live Paradise. Peach Blossom Festival 1. You are listening at novel full.audio. Chapter 2. Welcome to Live Paradise. Peach Blossom Festival 1. Tuan set the alarm clock, held the quilt, made the bed, locked the doors and windows, and finally fell asleep with peace of mind. The wind and rain outside the window continued, and lightning flashed a few times, but there was no sound of thunder. Ding-dong. Welcome to the live streaming amusement park. Please get enough views and followers before the game ends. Game failure deducts points. Deduction of points for answering mistakes. Wishing you and your partners a pleasant live broadcast. Shaking underfoot, the delicate wind blows on the face, bringing warmth from the sunshine. The cloud opened its eyes and instinctively raised its hand to block the sunlight. The destination is a gentle stream, standing on a canoe with a decayed half-oar in her hand. Started dreaming so quickly. Tuan found that she had an extra ring on her left index finger, but upon closer inspection, it was not. It was semi-transparent, and a black ring resembling a metal material seemed to have been pinched into her skin, forming a perfect match with her original skin. Suddenly, something strange grew up, a little creepy. She touched it, but only touched her own skin, and the mechanical female voice she had just heard echoed in her mind. Welcome to the beginner task. Peach Blossom Festival task requirement. Help fishermen leave the village. The calculation of followers and views will not stop until the task is completed. Your initial points. Newcomer protection points 10, at the same time, around, flying mechanical eye popped out of the ring. The mechanical eye flew around her twice and said, Hello Anchor 100742, I am your live streaming elf Xiaoxi. Please choose whether to turn on real-time barrage. The cloud looked at the wooden barrel in the small boat in confusion. Inside, 2 or 3 fish were on the brink of death, with only a slight movement of their gills. Open, it said. The anchor is a beautiful woman. Where are you from? What color do you usually like? Another rookie. Don't be killed by someone all at once. It's really annoying, I ordered it wrong. What task is it? Peach Blossom Forest. Oh, I got it. It's half a meter in front of the cloud, a transparent wall suddenly appeared, and 2 or 3 barrage scrolled slowly over. The top left corner showed the number of viewers 8 in the real-time barrage. Occasional mention of task content is all blurred by mosaic processing. This dream was quite novel. She smiled and picked up the oar and shook it a few times. Xiaoxi, close the real-time barrage. Tuan tried to say something. The barrage in front of me disappeared, and suddenly a large pink area came into view. The instruction is valid. At first glance, 100 meters away from the shore, there is a peach forest. The clear water color, light pink and white, and lush green blend together, creating a fragrant and vibrant atmosphere, while the fallen petals are colorful. The cloud pinched itself and the pane was clear. Not a dream. Inexplicably entering a different space, the clouds gradually became alert, but there was no one around, only sunlight, streams, and a peach forest. Peach Blossom Spring Festival. Tuan silently recited it once and searched for information about Peach Blossom Spring in her mind, but she had studied for a long time, and even if she was a serious Chinese major student, she could not guarantee the accuracy of every word. But obviously, memorizing the text word by word is not enough to solve the problem now. When the forest empties its water source, it becomes a mountain. Tuan picked up half of the decayed oars, rolled up his sleeves, and paddled in the direction of the peach forest. She rowed and rowed until she was gasping for breath and her arm was sore. Looking back, she rowed 10 meters out. But at least it hasn't deviated from the general direction. Without a watch, no distress equipment, both fish in the barrel died and emitted a foul odor. The stream is clear and bottomless, with nothing but pebbles below. Shit. Tuan cursed in her heart and relied on her willpower to push forward. Perhaps 10 minutes or half an hour had passed, and when the sunset came, she finally saw a mountain. Between layers of vines and green leaves, there is a dark hole with a hint of light. Xiaoxi, what would happen if I died in the mission? Will I immediately return to the real world? The mechanical eye flew around her. Unfortunately, the live streaming sprite does not have the permission to answer. Please follow the rules to perform the playback task. Then the shriveled calf flew back into the ring of her left index finger and remained silent. Tuan suddenly felt a bit frightened when he thought of his classmates and tutors who had changed greatly in their lives. Will the bodies of people who die in this place be occupied by other consciousness bodies in the real world? Stay here, starve to death, or be attacked by wild beasts. Getting into an unknown cave may result in hypoxia, starvation, and exhaustion. After thinking for a moment, both vertically and horizontally, there was death. Suddenly, the clouds felt a strange stability. She rowed the boat closer to the mountain, grabbed a sturdy vine, grabbed the oars, and abandoned the small boat. It took a long time and effort for the cloud to climb to the entrance of the cave. She grabbed the oar, barely using it as a defensive weapon, and took a step towards the cave. Click. The oar touched the top of the cave, and many red spots suddenly appeared in the dark area. A group of bats flapping their wings and flying towards her. Tuan quickly squatted down, protecting his head with both hands and making as little noise as possible. Fortunately, the bat was only startled and flew out of the cave without staying too long. She turned the wood pulp horizontally and arched her body forward. If it was really Peach Blossom Spring, then there should be a way. The entrance is narrow with almost no gaps, but after taking 2 steps, it becomes even narrower. If it weren't for the cat crouching, Tuan would definitely have had a face-to-face intimate encounter with the bat now. The ground was uneven, and the smell of decay came from ahead. The clouds were at a loss, so they could only take light steps and abandon all unnecessary actions in order to slow down the consumption of oxygen. Suddenly, she stepped on a round object that was hard and knocked with a paddle. It was empty. I probed and found 2 small holes on that thing that could be poked in. Is it a skull? Tuan's mind was filled with various bad speculations, and his footsteps couldn't help but accelerate. She is just a soon-to-graduate college student with poor sports skills. Why climb a cave here? I don't know how long she has been walking, but the cave has really widened. She no longer has to crouch, nor will she touch the mountain walls on both sides due to excessive movements. That little bit of light gradually turned into the size of a disc, the size of a basketball, the size of a tire. Finally approaching, Tuan's feet softened and she almost fell. She quickly grabbed the oar and propped it up. Fortunately, I wasn't injured. Under the faint light, she saw what was beneath her. A decayed corpse with half of its face, maggots wriggling in the decaying area, feeling the heat exhaled by the clouds. They even raised their heads provocatively and wriggled a few times. The clouds suddenly gained strength and bounced up, running a few steps forward. A village suddenly appeared ahead, with houses arranged in a neat and orderly manner, and a large area of fertile land not far away. It's just a house. Some are thatched cottages, some are black and white small bungalows made of reinforced concrete, and there are also small halls, temples, and so on. Not in the same class, not even in the same era. Even when reading Chinese, one may not remember every ancient text word for word. Tuan is in a famous state where he can memorize a few paragraphs, and of course, it is not ruled out that there are people with super good memory. However, the protagonist of this article is about growth. Book enthusiasts who enjoy the protagonist's smooth journey and are full of seniors, please stop. Do not torment each other. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Peach Blossom Spring Festival 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This translator is experiencing an error, please try another translator. Chapter 4. Peach Blossom Spring Festival 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Peach Blossom Spring Festival 3. As he was speculating, the blue hoodie suddenly walked over, laughing innocently. But he didn't say anything, just asked where the thatched cottage was. The third room from the east, with the toilet in the small wooden box at hand. Tuan replied, looking like a new employee of the inn. Lan Wei thanked him and turned around to distinguish the direction for a while before firmly walking towards the west. Her smile stiffened and she decided not to meddle in her affairs. Not long after, there were bursts of delicious food coming from the kitchen. The banquet dishes are rich, including delicate and smooth congee with fish fillet, fragrant pork elbow with soy sauce, and braised chicken pieces that are crisp outside but tender inside. At a glance, meat dishes account for most of the dishes. Vegetables are also stir-fried until they shine brightly, making them a delicious dish. The innkeeper brought out aged wine to entertain her, also took care of a little girl, and brought a jar of light peach blossom wine. It's really difficult to give up on a grand occasion. And the identity of Tuan's outsider was completely exposed to the two men in hoodies. She recorded the order in which the two young people used their chopsticks, separated them for a period of time, and then went to pick up the dish to eat. Those two people didn't eat the food, and Tuan didn't dare to move. A meal, with a dark tide surging and dangers lurking everywhere. After dinner, the three of them walked aimlessly and with different expressions, walking drunkenly to the room arranged by the shopkeeper. As soon as Tuan entered the door, she searched everywhere for self-defense items. She found several iron hangers in the wardrobe, and her hands bent and twisted them into a triangle, getting stuck at the door lock. Another small cabinet has been brought in and pressed against the door. She closed the window, but the wooden tenon was a bit loose, so she stuffed a piece of cloth to block it. Tuan checked the bedding and made sure there were no knives or insects underneath before sitting down with a little peace of mind. As she looked up, the two young people who were supposed to be drunk stood in front of her. She was startled and picked up a wooden stick, leaning against her. "What are you doing?" A person who looks like a human, but sneaks into a room of the opposite sex at night. Blue Hoodie took a step forward and smiled inexplicably, feeling a bit shy. "Hello, little sister, please do the final practice with me." "Thank you." After speaking, he bowed extremely seriously. The gray hoodie did not make a statement, but rather showed an observer posture. 5 minutes later. The blue hoodie covered the swollen skull from the wooden stick and complained to the onlookers, "Brother. Why didn't you stop me? My skull is about to be smashed. Tuan looked at the red and swollen marks on the young man's forehead and snorted coldly while holding a wooden stick. Where did you come from? You broke into the girl's room in the middle of the night, and I'll sue the official to catch you. Unexpectedly, the gray hoodie chuckled lightly and said, Stop pretending, I saw you answer the question. Tuan frowned and realized that he was not careful enough. But why did these two people voluntarily expose their player identities? To find a fisherman. Is it like that? First time in contact with the amusement park. Newcomers. Lan Wei suddenly felt happy. He stood up, tidied up his clothes in a dignified manner, and once again extended his hand to Tuan. Hello, my name is Jinghe. Jinghe from Chuanhe Jingming is single. Tuan shook back and then withdrew his hand. My name is Tuan. What two words are they? Jinghe looked confused. Is that what he thought? The cloud pointed to the ceiling and said, That's the cloud. Pushi. Can you also create a decent pseudonym? This is too hasty, isn't it? She twitched at the corner of her mouth, ignoring the young man who was twitching, and turned to look at another person in the room, silently asking. I thought he wouldn't answer, but to my surprise, the person suddenly spoke up. Jingyu, the sun shines brightly on the day, and the moon shines brightly on the night. A very warm name, but people are so cold that they don't feel like words. Tuan nodded and said, Hello, it's late at night. Do you have anything to do with me? On the surface, she looked peaceful, but her hand holding the stick never relaxed. If she really had to take action, it would be difficult for her to deal with two adult males, so she had to attack them off guard and then take the opportunity to escape. Are you a fisherman? Jinghe came straight to the point and caught people off guard. Tuan was stunned and said, Ah. Isn't the fisherman a man? In the theme of humanity's live streaming rooms, all anchors' tasks are the same. At this time, the amusement park system will release many smoke bombs, such as preparing hundreds of people with similar identities to ask players to choose. Men, women, old and young are all possible. Jingyu picked up a hanger and casually broke it into the shape of a 5-pointed star. Tuan realized the power gap between her and the two, and his heart was even more uncertain. When she started, she was definitely the one who fell first. So, how did you come to this village? Jingyu asked, fiddling with the damaged clothes rack as if completing a work of art with precision and elegance. Tuan's eyes flickered for a moment as she seemed to see this person wearing a white coat conducting experiments in a pile of colorful precision instruments. I came from drilling a cave. She recalled the old boat, decaying oars, and a barrel of rotten fish. It could indeed be a fisherman, but it could also be a cult-like creature on a ghost ship. Or unlucky anglers. Where do fishermen usually use decayed oars? They can't even paddle, isn't it taking their own lives? The two brothers exchanged a glance and smiled slightly. We came from the north of the mountain, crossed a river, and that's it. Jinghe smiled, revealing his two-pointed tiger teeth. Surprisingly different. But what's going on with so many bones in the cave? She was recalling I was horrified to find that the bones were all facing the village with their feet facing the stream. Those people died while running away. What do you plan to do to the fisherman? Tuan shook his head and put all his speculations behind him. I was originally planning to disguise the fisherman and send him out, but you don't need to disguise yourself anymore, Jinghe said with a big grin. However, according to the usual pattern, there may be mechanisms and restrictions on the way back. Alternatively, you may have already been poisoned when you arrived at this place. Jinghe spoke lightly, and the exaggerated smile on his face that could be played in children's plays at any time remained unchanged. We'll go out after the second round of answering, Jingyu suddenly said. Oh yes, newcomer. Points are very important. If one day you fall into a plain-themed space, points can be used to exchange for recommendation slots, temporarily saving your life. But if you answer incorrectly, points will be deducted. Will you have to compensate for it then? Tuan has a rough understanding of this inexplicable amusement park, but she still doesn't understand why the game was triggered, and who the audience in the live broadcast room is. Usually luck wouldn't be so bad, right? He scratched his head and the swelling on his forehead didn't disappear at all. Let's go back to our room first. Be careful and don't open the door if you hear anything at night, Jingyu said, pulling on He's blue hat and jumping out of the window. Tuan's mouth twitched as he saw the cloth falling on the ground, indicating that he knew how these two had just arrived in her room. She placed the wooden stick under her pillow, recalling the conversation they had just had. These two were too certain, relying solely on the fact that she came from drilling a cave, but the ores. This is the first time I received a recommendation vote from a book friend at Dian Nu. Happy thank you to the big and cute little ones who voted for the recommendation. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Peach Blossom Spring Festival 4. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Peach Blossom Spring Festival 4. In the morning, a ray of sunlight shone through the locked window into the room. Countless hands that had decayed to the point of exposing bones extended from all sides of the room, slowly approaching the direction of the bed. The dark and viscous liquid seeped out from the beams and fell like rain. 1 drop, 2 drops, fell on the sleeping girl's face. The cloud struggled to open its eyes, but did not notice anything unusual, but there was an inexplicable burning sensation in the back of its neck. Is it an illusion? She sat up, checked around the bed again, and finally found a strange symbol with a golden paint imprint at the bottom of the bedboard. In his freshman year, Tuan borrowed a book from the library called The Great View of Charm Culture. He thought it was fun and drew a few randomly, but of course it didn't have much effect. Perhaps it is a placebo effect, a culture that has persisted to this day and is still used in some villages. But she has some impression of those symbols, which are definitely not in this shape for praying for blessings and curing diseases. She walked around the room, paying special attention to the symbols carved on the furniture, and finally found one on the bedboard, one on the beam, and one on the wardrobe. But the difference is that one corner of the golden symbol on the bedboard is a bit faded, while the other two are intact. Fortunately, I didn't open the wardrobe yesterday. She felt an inexplicable sense of happiness. Tuan picked up the mirror and worked hard for a while, looking for many angles, but couldn't see the area where the back of his neck was burning. Move the cabinet in front of the door, remove the deformed hanger, and she used her hands to pull her hair a few times before leaving the door. As soon as he left, Tuan was facing Jingyu who was walking towards him. He was holding a wet towel in his hand, probably just finished washing. Good morning, she habitually smiles, hiding her unease in her heart. Unexpectedly, the person stared at her for a while, walked over directly, picked up a towel, and rubbed her face. Do you do? Tuan's face was painfully rubbed and couldn't be pushed away, so he could only curse a few words in his heart. This process lasted for about half a minute. When Jingyu moved his hand away, the little girl's porcelain white face had already turned red. Like a cherry just picked from a branch. My face is stained with dirt, Jingyu said with a light sigh. Be careful, everything here is data synthesis, and there are many things that go beyond common sense. Thank you. Tuan covered his neck, feeling his face thin. You're welcome, we can't even leave if you're dead, Jingyu said as he opened the door and entered the room. The door has closed again. At the moment of opening the door, Tuan saw that the bedboard had been removed. These two brothers used excess wooden boards to assemble a simple bed frame and casually laid something as a mattress. Many decorations inside the house have also been relocated. With such a big change, there should be a lot of noise, but she didn't hear a sound from the next door. Tuan waited for the redness on his face to fade a bit before heading to the lobby of the inn. She thought for a while, thinking that this was not a dead-end game, otherwise the system wouldn't have given her a new player protection score, and arranged such a special identity for her. The Jing brothers must have some special identification method to be so certain that she was a fisherman. Since it is a beginner task, there will inevitably be subsequent upgrade tasks and multiple live broadcasts. It's better to take this opportunity to familiarize yourself with the rules of the amusement park. But the landlady said that Tian Bao woke up late today and had already passed earlier. She asked her to help urge him, and in her words, there was a sense of servility as a servant. Isn't it a mother and daughter? What are you so afraid of? Tuan thought for a moment and realized that what she was hiding in her sleeve today was not a half-wooden stick, but a thin iron rod modified from a hanger. Used to poke people, it has greater killing power than a wooden stick and is not easily stolen. According to the instructions, she found Tian Bao's room. Knock, knock. Tian Bao, have you woken up yet? She asked, looking aside. There was a sharp stone on the ground with a muddy smell, as if it had just been dug out of the riverbed. Tuan squatted down, wrapped the stone in cloth, and put it in his pocket. Fortunately, she likes to wear clothes with pockets that are relatively loose, and hiding things is not easy to find. I'm up, I'm up. Sister, please come in. The cloud pushed open the door and saw only a child wearing a beige coat with messy hair. Tian Bao smiled and put on his coarse cloth jacket in a few pairs, then picked up a comb and ran to the front of the table with his short legs kicking and kicking. Jump up and sit on the stool. Then, skillfully took off his own head. Got my head. Tuan looked at the scene in front of her in shock. The little girl's head and neck were only connected by a black and blue smoke, her body was still moving, and her facial expression was also very lively. It seems that you can accurately comb your hairstyle without looking at it with your eyes. Sister, Tian Bao is really good at combing his hair. I can also help you comb it, Tian Bao said as he combed his hair with a smile and looked at the clouds on the ground. No need, thank you Tian Bao. Tuan's face turned white, but he still pulled out a smile. In the past, she had only seen such grand scenes in horror movies. Cold and uncomfortable to see. Originally, the people in the village were not very normal. The burning festival is coming soon, and everyone in the village will be present. Ask the paper god and you will get what you want. Tian Bao gave himself 2 small tugs, then pressed his head back on his neck and twisted it. Paper god. Yeah, in order to avoid the war and chaos of the Qin dynasty, our ancestors brought their wives, children, and neighbors to this place. They never went out again, so they cut off contact with people outside. Every year, we pray to the paper god during the fire festival, and then we can get what we want. Tian Bao wants a pink head flower this year. The little girl smiled and turned around, placing the comb in front of the mirror. I saw that the guests at Aunt Lee's house had such a headache. All right, hurry up to the lobby. Your mother is already in a hurry. Tuan took note of this information and urged Tian Bao to go downstairs. Oh right. Tian Bao sighed and ran downstairs with his short legs. The cloud dispersed the people and they began to observe in the room. The house faces north and south, with the windows always open. There is no strange golden symbol on the bedboard, beam, or wardrobe. There is only a lingering burnt smell in the air. So the rooms provided to outsiders are special and have no intention. What are you looking at? Suddenly, a clear male voice came from the window. Tuan turned his head and saw Jing in a monkey clinging to the window frame, squatting on the window edge that was less than 20 centimeters wide. She ignored it and just focused on flipping through the embroidery around the bed. Peach blossom 9 peach blossoms. 9 is a polar number, the largest number in a single digit, and is a positive number. All things bear yin and embrace yang, which is beneficial to living beings. Tuan took a closer look and found that the petals of the peach blossom were empty, with only a circle around the periphery, and the stamens were embroidered with brown and black thread. Just because the fabric is pink, at first glance, the peach blossoms are still lifelike. When you look closely, these peach blossoms are all empty, 9 in total, and they even form a big circle. It's not necessarily a dead-end game. If you say more, it will be a spoiler. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Peach Blossom Spring Festival 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Peach Blossom Spring Festival 5, The Reverse Peach Blossom. Tuan's back cooled down, he let go of his hand, turned around, but found that the young man's face was within reach. She immediately slapped and called out. Hiss. What are you doing? What are you so scared of? Jinghe covered his left face, his eyes full of innocence. I didn't find anything, but, Tuan took a few steps back. It's best if you don't get so close to the opposite sex next time. She remembered what Jinghe had said to her for the first time, and suddenly felt that nothing was right with this person. It's like exuding an old color palette all over. Hey, there's no need for you to be so scared. I'm a good person, Jinghe said with innocent eyes as he tried to get closer but then stopped. I don't have any ill intentions. Closing exercises are indeed a way for players to increase their playback volume. If you don't want to, just let it go. I won't force that against others' wishes. Tuan nodded in agreement, and the next second, he applied oil to his feet and ran away quickly. Jinghe remained speechless for a while before finally uttering a sentence. It's such a rare thing for a big anchor to deliver traffic. Little girl doesn't appreciate it. Finally, he looked up at the beam and said, Brother, why don't you help me with a word? Jingyu jumped off the beam of the house, and Qing Jun's eyebrows and eyes were soaked in cold air. He casually lifted his eyelids, not wanting to participate in the children's fights and commotion. His gaze lingered around the bed for a moment, then shifted to the embroidered bandages on the small table, and a light smile overflowed from his throat. Jinghe covered his face and looked at his brother who was gloating in disbelief. He hummed and ran away. Second floor. Tuan took out the small stones hidden in his sleeve, aimed them at the 3 strange symbols, and began to grind them, trying to destroy them. She kept an eye on the movements in the hallway while grinding, and soon the friction began to heat up, but the golden symbol seemed to be more pronounced. The small piece of skin on the back of the neck also felt a faint pain. Tuan sighed and wrapped the stone before hiding it, deciding to change the method. But her strength is weak, so she can't tear down all these cabinets in one night like the 2 people next door. She glanced at the pattern of the carpet. Layers of vines arranged together in a sorted manner, densely packed, and even if she stared at it for a little longer, she would feel dizzy. Suddenly, I had some thoughts. The cloud climbed up the table, stood straight, and observed the carpet from a high place. The green vines radiate outward from the center, forming countless small circles in each circle. The pattern at the center of the circles has different directions. She followed those directions with her fingers and walked around. I discovered that it could also form that strange symbol, but I didn't realize it before because the patterns were complex and scattered. Tuan walked to the corner of the room, lifted the entire carpet, and found many used matchsticks and 2 or 3 embroidered bandages. A few embroidery needles, a pile of peach and pink embroidery threads. The needle and thread are new, but the matchstick is used. She didn't pick them up immediately, but carefully studied the arrangement and combination for a while. Is there any new clue? After looking for a while, the cloud came to the conclusion that these things were just casually placed here. She shook her head, feeling that she might be crazy. Tearing off a little cloth from the bed veil, wrapping it around a palm, and making a simple glove, Tuan finally picked up the things on the ground. No attacks from poisonous insects, no cheap light effects. She sat on the stool, staring at the pile of waste, wrapped it in a cloth, hid it in a corner, and then went downstairs to fetch a basin of water. I took a stroll around the kitchen and found my pocket full of chili powder, pepper, a box of matches, and a rusty knife placed in the corner. Tuan walked towards the room carrying a basin of water, feeling happy in his heart. Now, if anyone threatens her life's safety again, give them a tetanus warning. Returning to the room, she washed all the needles and threads, wiped away the surface moisture, and let them air dry. The cloud supported her chin and her face was dull. This was her little habit of thinking about things, and nothing could affect her. Stupid and stunned. But in fact, many researchers also do the same when they think about things. Their thinking turns too fast, making it difficult for their bodies to follow. Their thoughts fly in front of them, and their bodies can't do anything to help, so they can only stay in place and reduce losses. Afterwards, Tuan decided to imitate the bed pattern in Tian Bao's room, embroider a positive peach blossom, and then secretly replace the one in the other person's room. The fabric around her bed is the same as Tian Bao's, and the color is also the same, but there is no embroidery. In my sophomore year, people around me were in love and wanted to use hand-embroidered safety symbols to move each other. However, many people were lazy and there was a widespread phenomenon of stopping after embroidering the beginning, and not sending them out even after breaking up. Tuan discovered a business opportunity from it. She embroidered safety symbols, pieced together puzzles, and painted digital oil paintings on behalf of others, and charged based on the complexity of each piece. I once earned a lot of money. She also learned many embroidery techniques, jigsaw puzzles, or coloring tips from it. I thought that even if I couldn't find a job in the future, it would be good to become a household service worker and take care of children. I didn't expect this technique to be used in the live streaming amusement park first. 1 hour later, Tuan drew the pattern for embroidery according to his memory. The sunlight outside the window is already very bright, and the village is gradually becoming active. The crowing of chickens and barking of dogs echoed along the field path. The warm wind blew through the bamboo forest, rustling and blowing a faint fragrance of bamboo. She stood up and moved her stiff limbs, trying to burn the rolled-up carpet to the side. However, once the match was lit, it completely extinguished as soon as it approached the carpet. I changed the angle a few times, but it still doesn't work. Tuan suddenly understood what that pile of burnt matchsticks meant. It was left by the players who lived here in the previous round while trying to burn carpets and houses. This place cannot start a fire. The needle and thread are new, which is the task point for clearance. Miss Yun. Hurry down and let's go to the ready-to-wear shop in the village to buy some sets of clothes. Ah. Okay. The cloud suddenly remembered Tian Bao's words such as, burning fire festival, and, praying for blessings, and immediately responded. She still has some questions to verify. How many players got stuck in this live broadcast? What is the ratio of new players to old players? Have some of those people already been recruited? Tuan put things away and ran all the way downstairs. Jing Yu was already standing in the lobby, facing against the light, with lowered eyebrows and eyes, talking to Tian Bao. This gentle appearance is the first time Cloud has seen it. She, like other girls, would take a few more glances at handsome boys. But Tuan would never approach to chat up or anything else. She knows her situation, she can't afford any other consumable things besides earning money through reading. Brother, you look so beautiful. If you change into the clothes we wear here, you must be particularly handsome. Tian Bao's voice suddenly rang out, with a crisp smile echoing in the lobby of the inn. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Peach Blossom Spring Festival 6. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This translator is experiencing an error, please try another translator. Chapter 8. Peach Blossom Festival 7. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Peach Blossom Festival 7. With such an interruption, Tuan's inner fear weakened significantly, but his limbs became weak and various physiological discomforts did not dissipate so quickly. Before the task ends, please follow us first. Jing Yu put down the blue and white dragon-patterned flat bottle in his hand and said in a deep voice. After thinking for 2 seconds, Tuan smiled and agreed, "Thank you, I will be a good little brother. It's safer this way. If you're divided into many pieces by the hunting faction, we won't have any place to find you." Jing He nodded in agreement and tore the pleated skirt in half with all his might. Cloud cluster. Agreed too hastily, this person doesn't look good no matter what. And the task is to help the fishermen escape, but there is no limit on their life or death. What if they leave with their bodies? Can those bones in the cave also be the fishermen who successfully escaped from this village? She has been in the welfare institution for so many years and has already developed a set of skills to observe her behavior. Jing Yu usually has a cold face and his strength is unpredictable. Jing He has a playful smile on his face, but he may inadvertently show a hint of terror. Difficult to handle. Jing He looked at the cloth shards in his hand and tilted his head, his eyes and eyebrows tinged with a smile. This is made of paper. Finally. He looked at the cloud with a hint of regret and said, "It's a pity that we can't wear it anymore. So what kind of scene do you really want to see?" Tuan looked helplessly away at the burning fire behind the two of them. She didn't feel any warmth, and even felt something vaguely inside the fire. Is this a holographic projection? She walked behind the counter, took a few steps closer, trying to study the text on the fireplace, but was pulled away by Jing Yu. On the left and right sides are couplets, with an inscription of "summoning souls" on them. Jing Yu pointed to the small characters on the fireplace and explained briefly. "Oh, Zia Yunshuan, don't get close. Look, I just burned my hair." Jing He pulled the doll costume back, revealing a missing corner of his hairstyle. In the center of the hairline, there is a bald spot, leaving only a sparse root. A little closer, you can still smell the smell of burning. Laughing now is obviously out of place. Tuan bit his back teeth and didn't go to see the scenery or the missing hairline. Instead, he shifted his attention and said, "Why do clothing stores have couplets? Are business people so careless? I suspect this place is a tomb chamber that can make people hallucinate." Jing Yu pulled off the cloth tail that was obstructing Jing He's neck. "Can you remember how to recite, Peach Blossom Spring, dot?" Tuan realized that this was information sharing, and the other party wanted to dispel her doubts and also attempted to analyze the task world from different perspectives. In the middle of the Jin dynasty's Taiyuan era, the people of Wuling engaged in fishing as a profession. They wandered by the stream, forgetting the distance of the road. Suddenly, they encountered a peach blossom forest, with hundreds of steps between the banks, and there were no miscellaneous trees in the middle. "Stop, fishermen. Fishing has been a business for generations. If there were such a peach forest, wouldn't it be famous?" Jing Yu said, and suddenly a corner of his clothes appeared in the fireplace. He pulled it and a lake blue oversized shirt appeared. "It's like magic." Jing He happily took it, carefully folded it and placed it aside. Getting lost is not impossible. When you came, the peach blossoms were withering, right? Do you know when this is? Peach blossoms enter their blooming period in mid-March and slowly begin to wither in late April. They wither relatively quickly in early April. Is this near the Qingming festival? Tuan said as goosebumps exploded. If she were a hedgehog, she would explode into a sea urchin now. Yes, then the fishermen entered the village through a narrow cave. This is not feng shui, but in ancient times, in order to prevent tomb raids, they usually built the tomb passage in this narrow front and wide back. You should have found traces of tomb raiders along the way, right? Jing Yu rarely showed a smile, his delicate eye shape slightly raised, and his lazy and clear appearance made people blush and heartbeat. The clouds fell silent. Narrow caves hidden by vines, swarms of bats, scattered skulls, corpses full of maggots. It's not really a serious place. Since she is a tomb thief, there should be tools like shovels. She ran too fast and didn't even notice. Hasty. Tuan is a bit frustrated, there could have been a more convenient weapon. Silence is default. Jingyu fiddled with the fake flower next to him without further questioning. The theme of the park's live broadcast is based on reality. It may be an article or a legend, but the content is more dangerous. If you use the greatest malice to speculate, you often get close to the truth. Every household in the village invited fishermen to be guests, delicious and delicious. However, he still left, marked everywhere, and reported to the prefect. During the Jin dynasty, the outside world was in chaos and not peaceful, which was not reasonable. Tuan followed this train of thought and slowly speculated, if no one found this place again later, it also indicates that something was abnormal. Jinghe listened, feeling a bit unconvinced. How could you all guess? I think this is just a simple help task. I saw Tian Bao take off his hair before, put it on the table, and then comb his hair. Tuan recalled with a bitter face, have you ever read that kind of comic book? The illustrations of Liao Zhi are similar to those scenes. Jinghe opened his mouth in surprise and didn't utter a syllable for a long time. Rao remained calm and composed like Jingyu, but also raised his eyebrows in surprise. You are quite trusted by the indigenous people, he said, hee. After all, I'm a steward from the Shanbei opera troupe. Tuan chuckled, quite proud of his fabricated identity. I am the civil servant of the Shanbei opera team, Jingyu stated. I am a member of the Shanbei opera team, Jinghe sighed. This is not a fabrication, it's the identity arranged as soon as we entered the amusement park. No wonder the innkeeper saw her and asked if the Shanbei opera troupe was here. Then we should have a better relationship, after all, it's from the same theatrical troupe, Tuan said awkwardly. Learn from experience and be more cautious in the future. If she just entered the beginner village a few days ago, then she is now a beginner at level 1. We provide protection, in exchange, what information have you received? Jingyu folded all the clothes that flew out of the fireplace and chose some dark and minimalist styles to put in his backpack. Tian Bao said that there will be a burning festival soon, and by making a wish to the paper god, one can get what they want. Tuan picked out some clues and shared them with the two. By the way, she also said she wanted a headscarf, which happened to be on the heads of the recent guests. Wait a minute. Tomb Chamber, Fire Festival, Paper God. Jingyu nodded slightly and handed his backpack to Jinghe, who was watching the excitement. The clothes, houses, and so on here are likely burned by outsiders, he said, but you can get it by making a wish. Isn't the scope of this, burning, too broad? Tuan looked at the white patterns on the floor tiles and felt a bit regretful, not knowing if he could catch in Yuan's wedding when he went back. So will they also engage in some shady activities on their side? Good evening, end of this chapter. Chapter 9. Peach Blossom Spring Festival 8. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Peach Blossom Spring Festival 8 Jinghe asked, picking up a slightly fluorescent rose-red dress and gesturing towards himself. Well, it suits you very well, Tuan said sincerely. Jingyu seemed to have long been accustomed to someone's hobby and ignored it directly, that is to say, we could also be burned. After speaking, Jingyu looked up and down at the girl again and said, you don't have any value in being burned, so be content to hide it. Yes, does it mean to wear dirt? Tuan felt hurt, but couldn't refute it. She was resting at Yuan's house, wearing a set of yellowed and worn-out casual clothes with many pockets, long-sleeved pants, and two loose stitches that had not been patched. Who knew they would wake up in the live-streaming amusement park? Thanks to this, she doesn't have any decorations that the indigenous people would like to see on her body, and she's less dangerous. Didi, hello Anchor, please note that your followers and views are below the average level. Please improve the live streaming format and content as soon as possible. The electronic eye flew around the cloud and without warning, flew into the ring of her left hand. Yun Tuan sighed and decided to go back early to embroider her peach blossoms. Xiao Yun Tuan, the number of followers is very important. If you complete a task but your data doesn't meet the standards, you won't be able to go back to the real world. Out of kindness, Jing He pushed the aesthetically disastrous dress before Yun Tuan. Why hold on to something that can be done by changing clothes? No, I just think it's too ugly. Yun Tuan's lips twitched, rejecting Jing He's kindness, and then looked at Jing Yu with confusion. Why can this person, even though he is quiet and reserved, be constantly watched by those unknown creatures? Don't be so bored with my brother, but he looks good. Just dress neatly and stand there will be a lot of views. You're not bad looking, so changing clothes will increase your attention count. Yun Tuan remained silent and helped pack up, intending to leave as soon as possible. Hey, don't refuse this one. It's art, really. You have fair skin and can definitely handle fluorescent colors. Jing had chattered incessantly, constantly promoting the long dress in his hand. Some people say that the beginning of art is always unbearable. Yun Tuan believed it, but she didn't change it. Return to the inn. Tian Bao is still embroidering crooked mandarin ducks, without any serious atmosphere of slaughter or blood washing. Even when they saw the clouds coming back, they raised their heads, blinked their wet big eyes, and curiously asked, "Where have you been? The village chief came just now and didn't even find you." "We went to the Bai family's ready-to-wear shop," Yun Tuan explained, testing Tian Bao's reaction. The hunting faction obviously intervened in the game process, so in order to fix this bug, will the amusement park modify the memory of the indigenous people? Yes, the ready-to-wear shop bought a set today and gave away a middle coat. I need to take my aunt quickly. Tian Bao casually tied the embroidery needle in his hand onto the cloth, put down the embroidery bandage, and disappeared in a flash. Yun Tuan smiled and said, "I'll go upstairs and rest for a while. Call me out for dinner." Jinghe nodded and said, "Hey, okay." Jing Yu stared at the direction where the girl was leaving, frowning slightly, and his eyes were filled with cold stars. Returning to the room, the cloud observed the surroundings and found no signs of anything being moved. Even her hair, which had been stuck in the window hinges this morning, did not fall off. The 3 golden symbols on the wardrobe, beam, and bed still maintain a missing corner. There is no change. Yun Tuan removed the bed surround, arranged the embroidery thread in order of color depth, and used the light imprints previously painted on the cloth to start embroidery. The embroidery thread is very thin and can easily break if not careful. She carefully splits it open and thread it into the needle hole. Unlike the needle used in cross-stitch, the embroidery needle used in embroidery is approximately size 9, with a very thin needle tip that is slightly thicker than the hair, making it easy to puncture the embroidery fabric and leave a pinhole that is slightly undetectable, but it is also easy to prick the hand. Tian Bao's bed is embroidered on both sides, with long and short stitches and fine stitching. She has studied this type of embroidery, but is not familiar with it. Hiss. Yun Tuan just stabbed his finger with a little force, which was very painful, but there was no bleeding. After squeezing for a while, she continued. Under the carpet, she found 10 needles and 8 colors of embroidery thread, and arranged them one by one. During this period, Yun Tuan opened the real-time barrage and planned to embroider for a while before looking up and relaxing. "Sister, you have activated hard mode. With such a thin needle, you would be blind, right?" "No, it's okay to embroider it temporarily." Passing by. "Why did the anchor embroider flowers? Did I go to the wrong live broadcast room?" At first glance, I haven't even been to a few live broadcast rooms for the Peach Blossom Spring Festival. There are all sorts of wonders in the vast world. Half an hour has passed. Embroidered into a petal. Yun Tuan changed her posture and continued to embroider. After regaining her touch, she rarely pricked her hands. The petals extend outward from the stamen, with a gradient in color from dark to light. Peach blossoms are dicotyledonous plants with a petal base of 4 or 5. Peach blossoms have 5 petals and 5 sepals, many stamens, and 1 pistil. Embroidery is not as delicate, and sepals do not need to be outlined. 2 hours later, the cloud finally finished embroidering 1 flower. She stood up, stretched lazily, took out a light she had bought while wandering from her backpack, and put it on the battery. The room lit up instantly. Can only provide temporary lighting, cannot light at night, the target is too large. There is only about an hour left until dark. This flower embroidery is so lifelike. The host can give me a tutorial, I also want to learn it. Then I'll have the live streaming sprite fly closer and take a close up of the embroidery fabric, Tuan whispered as he greeted the electronic eye dozing on the table. I can see every stitch of mine, so it's easier to learn. Drip by drop, the number of followers has increased significantly. Tuan looked at the page and saw that the number of viewers had finally broken through 3 digits, and there were also over 30 people who clicked on the following. It's probably over the average. She breathed a sigh of relief, no longer fixated on the killing scenes she saw during the day. Xiaoxi. Xiaoxi. Wake up and adjust the playback angle. The cloud held the tired electronic eye in its hand and shook it. Please do not attack the live streaming sprite. There is 1 hour left for the live broadcast on that day. Do you want to start the night live broadcast after 1 hour? Originally, it was not a 24-hour live broadcast. Will the amusement park still pay attention to the privacy of the anchor? No opening. She fixed Xiaoxi on the high stool where she placed the embroidery thread, adjusted the angle, and continued to embroider. 1 hour later. The live broadcast ended, and Tuan also embroidered the second peach blossom, reducing the time by half. With her previous experience, her speed is also getting faster and faster. It won't be long before we finish embroidering it. Knock and knock. Zayunshuan, it's time for dinner. We have fish soup today. It's so delicious. Jinghe was shouting outside the door, so loudly that the whole inn could hear him. Here we go. Tuan hid the needle and thread again, hung the bed back and adjusted the angle, so that the embroidered side was hidden in the corner of the wall, making it difficult to be noticed. There will be more people at night, so it will be changed to night shifts in the future. The next chapter is the Village Fire Festival. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Peach Blossom Spring Festival 9. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Peach Blossom Festival 9. On the dining table, a dish of crucian carp and tofu soup was particularly eye-catching. A bowl was filled with clouds, and the soup was milky white, fresh and salty, and delicious, with a silky texture that flowed into the throat. If it were in a restaurant outside, the price could skyrocket to 3 digits. The girl took a sip of soup and a happy expression appeared on her face, even her slightly affectionate peach blossom eyes curved into the shape of a new moon. Jing Yu's thin red lips pursed slightly, and a faint smile appeared on the ends of her eyes and eyebrows. When Tuan felt the gaze from the other side, she suddenly came to her senses. She lowered her head and did not make any eye contact with the other person. Shame on oneself. In this environment, drinking fish soup can even make one intoxicated. It's quite embarrassing. After some self-regulation, she lifted her head and drank slowly with a spoon. They don't eat with the shop owner, they sit at a table with 3 people in the corner of the first floor of the inn, which is not very conspicuous, but also not a place to talk about things. Child, eat more. Fish soup is nutritious, nourishing qi and blood. Jinghe frowned and scooped the soup several times before pushing the bowl in front of the cloud, expressing concern. A look of, child, is it enough? The cloud was so embarrassed that it wanted to leave this planet to live, but on the surface, it still took the fish soup with a smile. No one who couldn't get along, don't get along with the food. Starting at 6 o'clock tomorrow, they will have the fire festival. As he approached the stairs, Jingyu made a faint sound. Good clouds should descend, eager to go back and embroider peach blossoms. She took out the cloth she had dug up behind the ready-to-wear store and laid it on the ground as a makeshift bed. Gently fold down the table and use the height of the table and stool to create a tent-like space. She placed the electric light inside, turned on the switch, and then crawled outside the blanket to observe for a while. After confirming that the brightness of the lighting in the middle did not show through, she took the embroidery tool and crawled in. From the first 2 hours of one peach blossom, to 1 hour before meals, and now, it's almost every 20 minutes. Hurry, and after another 2 hours, Tuan finally embroidered the bed surround. She processed the fabric strips that were cut during the period and made 3 bracelets embroidered with 9 peach blossoms. Tuan shouted out the live streaming sprite and studied the live streaming duration regulations for a while. If there is no setting, the live streaming will automatically start at 8 a.m. and automatically close at 6 p.m. Nighttime live streaming requires the host to initiate it independently, and the duration is not required. Live broadcasts during the day can be started in advance without delay. After understanding all of this, Tuan hid the needle and thread in the rolled-up carpet, took out the electronic watch he bought for 10 taels of silver, and set an alarm for 5:30 p.m. Surface display 0.17. She lay on the ground and made do with sleeping. On the night in the small village, it is quiet and silent. In the fields, there are occasional barks of dogs. The indigenous people in modern buildings, although equipped with electric lights and televisions, also have a limited time to turn off the lights. After 12:00, there will be no light unless the player is present. The cold wind blew over the clothes-drying pole, and the clothes flipped and the hunting made a sound. In the blink of an eye, the sky was slightly bright, and the cloud cluster was opened and pressed off 1 minute before the alarm clock rang. She sat for 5 minutes and stood up to drink a glass of water. After washing up, having breakfast. Once again lamenting the high prices, 2 meat buns cost 2 taels of silver, and accommodation for 30.1 taels of silver. If you haven't completed the task all along, you'll be penniless and camping on the streets. At exactly 6 o'clock, the Jing brothers and Tuan followed the Yin family to the Holy Land of the Burning Festival. Today everyone's attire is particularly formal, and the boss's wife's headscarf has been changed to a very bright white. Tian Bao jumps and walks behind with a yellow dog, combing 2 buns of hair, with 2 strands hanging from her temples, making her cute and charming. Sister, what wish do you want to make later? I'm not from the village, can I make a wish too? Tuan felt a hint of panic as he saw Tian Bao approach proactively. She just took advantage of everyone having breakfast and sneaked into Tian Bao's room, replacing the curtains around the bed with those she embroidered. It seems that it hasn't been discovered. Of course, the paper god can accommodate every person who makes a devout wish. Tian Bao shook his head and smiled slightly, with 2 small pear swirls on his lips. Surrounding the square platform were people, and at a glance, there were probably 700 or 800. A pile of fire was burning on the stage, with a faint yellow hue around the flames. The village chief closest to the fire, blushing from the heat, still smiled, showing the villagers the greatest kindness. The cloud was observing the surroundings, but someone bumped into its arm. The material of the other party's clothing is a bit special, and the area where it was hit instantly turned a big red. She dodged aside a bit, unwilling to cause trouble. The young man with silver hair smiled apologetically, with youthful and lively expressions between his eyebrows. Sorry, it's a bit too crowded here, he said. Tuan pinched his right fingernail into the palm of his left hand and smiled restrained. It's okay. After seeing the young man's appearance clearly, she struggled not to run away on the spot. This hair of course she won't forget. This is the guy who raised his kitchen knife yesterday and cut people without hesitation. Why did he come to such a crowded place? Jingyu pulled the cloud to his side and said, don't fall behind. With so many people, what if there is a stampede? Aha, what you're saying is. The cloud cluster shrank within the protection range of Jingyu, trying to reduce its presence as much as possible. The silver-haired boy's aura was too strong, and his gaze seemed to be constantly focused on her. "Did you find her yesterday?" "Like a light on my back." At this moment, Tuan could only believe that the killer would not cause trouble on the spot. She calmed down, and when she turned her head, she found 4 people at the outermost edge of the crowd, carrying several cloth bags and walking towards the deepest room. Do these 4 people not need to make wishes to the paper god? She quietly took note of the faces of these people, then looked up and looked at the burning fire with everyone. At this moment, the village chief tapped the ground with his cane, then threw it away, hands wide open, and muttered words in his mouth. Sangjin has a position, while Huanli conceals the light. Jiang Chang's misfortune is intertwined, and the violent situation leads to disaster. The past pain caused by grievances, and the present glory bestowed upon us. Enjoy the spirit with rank, welcome with joy. The villagers surrounding the Sifangtai all shouted in unison, with a majestic momentum and a resounding sound that shook the clouds. Tuan opened his mouth and pretended, but he was very puzzled in his heart. The village chief recited the Tang dynasty Ufu poem, songs from suburb temples, music from the hidden prince temple, welcoming the gods, while records of the peach blossom spring was from the end of the eastern Jin dynasty to the beginning of the Lu Song dynasty, before the Tang dynasty. Is this a flaw in the amusement park, or do you have any designs? Tian Bao, relying on his short stature, quickly squeezed through the crowd and rushed to the side of the square platform. Grandpa Village Chief. Tian Bao wants to be the first to make a wish. The child's crisp words interrupted the ceremony. The village chief was not angry either, he just touched his carefully crafted goatee and smiled, revealing a row of yellow teeth. Alright, good kids always get rewarded. Tian Bao obtained permission and knelt on a bright yellow cushion, closed his eyes for a moment, and murmured, "Paper God, Tian Bao wants a special head flower, the kind that the sister I saw at Mr. Wang's butcher's shop last night had." After making a wish, Tian Bao bowed 3 times on the cushion. The author is fabricating, do not immerse yourself in reality. End of this chapter.